Oh, it's weird. YouTube was being awkward. Wasn't giving me the links. Let me get rid of that. Social media posts. Bum, 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 bum. All right. Kia. So we did a little bit more. We should probably push the glow effects first, I think. So let's grab the orange, water it down a little bit. Get to making this what it needs to be. Oh, might have just watered it down a little too much. It's bad when it doesn't want to stick to the surface. So we'll just do the opacity push and pull that I usually do. Orange down. Clear the brush. Work back up from the bottom. So I got my mercurial list together. Want to test it out on Friday with my buddy. I think it'll do well. It's not as reliant on, like, the fulgrim power that Phoenician brings. It does suck that the AP is getting dropped for the Flawless Blades, but the reality is, with the drop of the Rhinos, with the drop of Fulgrim, I get to go Lucius with a full-size squad of Flawless Blades. I get to go, probably the big one that really stands out, I get to go a Land Raider on top of 2 Defilers. That was pretty big when I saw that points variation. I also get a DP in there with wings, which, I mean, that's always huge for Emperor's Children to be able to have one of those rocking in. We'll have to see how that works. Because I'm technically adding 4 more las cannons to my overall, which I think is good. Even if they don't hit as frequently as a single Defiler, just because the Defiler has the 2-up on average. I think there's a world where the threat of that Land Raider is pretty big. And then Mercurial having the reactive move to get to the table edge or to get to the Land Raider or something, like, I feel like Lucius is going to have a lot more fun. Access to the sustain 1 that I can just give to Flawless Blades. That's going to be pretty big. Since I'm going to be rocking a whole squad of them, I think it'll be good. I can't wait to try it out. I've been trying to make Mercurial work for a while now. And I think the mental awareness of how Tormentors work is really going to push me a little bit. I mean, of course, the Defilers are going to push. The Defilers are so key in like 90% of Emperor's Children detachments. And there's like a 20-point gap in my list, so when they nerf the Defiler points costs, I think I'll be okay, honestly. As well, my buddy does want to talk to me about costs for painting his Death Guard. His Death Guard are going to be a little weird, though. Because I think I want to strip the paint on the ones that are already painted. He has a few that are already painted. And the problem is my buddy painted his Mortarion. So, like, it feels kind of bad to be like, well, I'm going to strip all this paint. Because, like, I don't want it to feel like I'm just being like, haha, you're not good enough to, like, a friend of mine for what he did with his paint job. But, like, I want the paint jobs to be kind of universal. Right? Like, I want them to feel connected in a way. So I'm kind of torn. But, like, he has his Mortarion, and I've always wanted to paint a Mortarion. I have. I'll need to look at it, honestly. Because I wanted to paint a Mortarion. I wanted to pick a really good Moth. And I've always wanted to paint the wings of him to be, like, that kind of a Moth, right? Like, even if it requires, like, actual painting, like, we're going to have to figure out how to get in there and maybe, like, oil paint it a little bit. Get some really cool textures and stuff together. Because, like, imagine a Death Head Moth as like the wings with like all the textures and stuff to make it look like a skull. I think that could be really cool. And with the Death Guard I painted, I feel like it would just be better to hit kind of on the idea of like the clean. That was something I was talking to him about, but we'll see. Because if he's just like, oh, I want them to just look like Death Guard, then it's like, all right, I got you, right? Like I don't want to force a concept, a visual aesthetic concept onto something when he's just like, nah, I kind of want like actual Death Guard. I want that green. I want that feeling of rust and decay, and it's like, all right, yeah, I got you, man. So much of me wants to paint them to be like so clean though. It's the idea. It's kind of like the idea that I had with the orcs, the flesh tone orcs. It's like kind of off-putting because you expect something specific, and then for all of his Death Guard to just be like really clean armor, all their skin and like the boils and stuff just looks like normal flesh tone. Like no decay at all. Ugh. I think it'd be funny. Because beyond that, I could maybe figure out an idea for like a really quick kind of like neon decay. And that could also be pretty decent. For a second, I thought this was POD, and then I started hearing the actual lyrics in my head. We got hit with that Limp Bizkit. Reminder to anyone watching on YouTube, there is a Twitch stream as well, and that one has the music going. If you're on the YouTube side and you're looking for something to listen to, you can always kick on your own little playlist. We're in a dad rock mood, though. real question. Is this the radio edit? Nope. I'm still drinking this heinously bad soda. I think I'm gonna grab the cobalt. Try to fix up this plasma gun a little bit. Who messaging me on Steam? Do we want to cobalt it or do we want to make it brown? I think we can get away with brown. go. Meltagun action. I can't remember if I did the orange and yellow in the little exhausts on the backpacks. I need to check that out real quick. Let me get this last one done, then we'll double check to make sure I'm not going to have to go back through and get a few more hits. Let's double check the power packs. Make sure I don't need to add more gold or orange to them, rather. Nah, we Gucci. So I think next up on the list then is the non-metallic gold. So we got to do the Naples first. Naples is kind of like the undercolor. It's the ground reflective almost. It's done at sort of the flip down, because gold is always a different color based on basically the world, but we're not worrying about that here. On the bottom, and then just a brighter yellow as you go high, and then there's that brown strip usually in the middle. So we try to hit that here. I'm gonna need not water. I need medium. And then we'll start moving the Naples over here. Shouldn't need too much of it, because this is technically like a limited highlight color. But the way I do it, and this is kind of my secret, cheap and dirty, non-metallic metal approach, is you get a bit on your brush, and then when you look at a weapon or a surface, you always consider like, well, down here is going to be the orange. And you sort of just go in the strip right along it, and then you leave the top for the yellow. And it's not at all how you're supposed to actually render that if you're being serious. I'll put a little touch on the curve here. Bottom of the barrel. This side a little bit right there. Right there. Close to the outside of the grenade. Bottom of this little tag here. This is the downturned part of the shoulder pad, so it'll be down here. On the down lip there. This inner part of the wing that's kind of like on the fold. On these wires back here, near the bottom here. Again, for me in this moment, it's not about the real render. It's not about like, oh no, gold wouldn't look like that. It's sort of just like, it's kind of like the Sean Gordon Murphy once talked about this. He's a comic book artist. If you BS things properly, the person who looks at it, their brain will fill in the blanks. Like, it's not that you have to make it look perfect. It's just that you have to kind of put the right flavor of stuff in to get someone to look at it and go, oh yeah. Double check, make sure I'm okay with the overall feel of it. Yeah. Because then it goes into the next stage, which is the yellow, and then we hit very limited places with the white. And then that's just kind of how you approach this. What's up, Robury? EC, technically EC is my 4th. I have Thousand Suns, and then I kind of pseudo split into Demons, so I could have both of that. I did Chaos Knights. Actually, no, technically EC is my 5th. Although I am selling my GSC army, or I'm trying to get rid of it, rather. Because, like, I don't play it. But then it goes into EC after that, because I was getting GSC together before they announced the Emperor's Children. And then once they announced Emperor's Children, it was like all hands on deck. We're getting EC. Because, like, it's just a good side flavor for what I'm used to. Just needed me some Rushdown. I will agree with a lot of people, though. Melee is kind of hard in 40k. Like, knowing when to go in and why... so brutal. The new rules, they feel like nothing to me. I need to see how they actually interact. The new like, okay, so I think the way they presented it wasn't great. To put up top the detachment that was focused on Terminators, you know, that unit we can only take 5 people in, that, you know, we've universally established doesn't really work well as a squad. Doesn't feel good, doesn't have the right types of leadership for them. Blah, like, what's the point in using them outside of the fact that they are actually kind of cheap? They're nowhere near as durable as other faction Terminators. So why tell us about the Terminator one first when it was kind of the hottest of garbage? Giving Flawless Blades fights first after already telling everyone in the world that fights first is only going to be so useful. They're not a durable unit, so all you have to do is send something specific into it that will kill like a squad of 3 on average. And you lose. Like, there's no reason for that. I would rather stick with the Mercurial detachments. I would rather stick with the Carnival detachment. I would rather stick with... like, just any detachment other than any of the ones they talked to us about. Potentially. If the Flawless Blade detachment has some good stuff in it, like genuinely good stuff in it, I might think about it. Maybe. The whole point, though, for what I'm doing in Mercurial, because I'm going to try out my Mercurial list idea, is that I really want Lucius... yeah, the fly changes are huge. Well, Fulgrim flies, actually. And then they gave him Scuttle, which he doesn't actually need anymore, technically, now. But... I don't know, man. The detachments were just like... I need to see more. Because if the Flawless Blade detachment is good, it's like, alright, that's fine. But it's not enough to sell me on it being better than doing Phoenician, where you get AP4 on Flawless Blades, which is how you kill knights easily. Him and Carnival's nice. Carnival is one of, I think, the 3 detachments that do really well. And it's partially because of that. It's Fulgrim, and it's also Flawless Blades, because you can give Flawless Blades the sustain, which is nice for a Flawless Blade to have access to sustain. But that's why I like Mercurial, because I can give them sustain for a command point. So I can kind of pick and choose when I need it, and I don't need to have demons nearby. but it's that reactive move that's huge, because I want to run a 6-man with Lucius, and Lucius and the 6-man will be in a Land Raider, and that Land Raider will be where they are. Like, you kind of try to make it work where Lucius and the Land Raider are always near each other, so if anyone tries to go for Lucius, you go, cool, spend a command point, put Lucius back in the Land Raider. Alright. And, like, that's kind of fun for me. And you get that out of Mercurial. I don't know about the Terminator use. I played Fulgrim and 2 Defilers at a tournament recently in Phoenician, the Phoenician court, so that my Flawless Blades could get to AP4. And that the Defiler could have access to, like, in Phoenician you get +1 strength and I think AP when you're within a certain range with guns. So I think it's 12 inches with any gun on a single Emperor's Children unit. You just pay a command point, you get +1 strength. So if somebody was rocking T12 units, I was going to run over to them with the Defiler, spend a command point on the plus strength, so I'm wounding on 3s rather than 4s, do the damage into them that way, and then possibly charge them after the fact if they're still alive. Like, that was the whole goal there. But, like, I don't know how you win with Terminators that can only be 5-man. That have no defensive options. Whose weapon stats aren't really that impressive. Versus, you know, Flawless Blades. I get that they're kind of cheap, but when I was talking to my buddy about it, we came to the conclusion that I think their best bet is to just go to an expansion slot and sit there. And that's it. They just sit on the expansion. I think we are getting Bikers 100%. I think... So, what it feels like they're trying to do, specifically with how the Defiler stuff came out, and what I'm hoping is going to happen to the Hellbrute, because we haven't really seen a Hellbrute box in a while, and they're not really, like, pushing the fact that Hellbrutes exist on anyone. I think we're going to be starting to see boxes that come out where you get Pantheon options, right? So you can have the Hellbrute with Pantheon options. There's a version meant for World Eaters. There's a version meant for Chaos Space Marines. Same thing with the Defiler, the way it is right now, as it's set. I think they're going to try to start leaning into that. Which also means I think that's going to play in to Terminators as well. Like, there's going to be a Khorne version of Terminators. I think they're called, like, what? The Red Butchers or something? And then World Eaters will get their Phoenician Terminators, which are basically the two-handed sword-wielding Terminators, which is kind of cool. I'm hoping that that's what they're trying to figure out, is how to make single boxes from the Chaos Space Marine side of things translate to very specific Pantheon models. And the same thing with bikes, because I'm hoping bikes should go to EC, but they should also go to Chaos Space Marines, of course. We should get the Doom Rider. That'd be great. What do you think the bikes are going to be, though? Because I think most vehicles in Space Marines are being turned into that sort of demon engine approach. So do you think we're going to be getting, like, half human, half bike centaur type stuff? That's my theory. We're going to be seeing that kind of thing. Because it's got to be kind of like a demon engine. I don't know if they're going to do weapon upgrade kits and stuff like that. They want to keep things simple for 40k because they want it to be an entry point. I think they want to leave that whole, like, hyper customization to the 30k community. Because the moment you start getting into weird worlds of, like, oh, I want to go Volkite weapons on my Space Marines instead of the regular bolt guns, that's when you get into the realm of, well, what's the points difference between those two things? Is it balanced? Have we built the game with enough thought in it that someone running that won't feel bad to fight? Like, is that just going to be overly powerful? How's this going to work? Because that's kind of the problem. Like, 40k is in a rough spot for making narrative decisions like that. Because 40k on a world stage is the visual competitive thing, right? Like, 40k is what people see if they want to look at like a competitive game from Games Workshop. They'll see it on like War Games Live. They'll see it on the Warhammer community streams when they're doing the tournaments. And they don't want it to feel like, you know, this kind of miserable thing where it's like, well, if you didn't go Volkite, you're going to lose. Nothing has been more impressive about the current state of 40k than watching a tournament get to the end and having someone be like, hey, you know how we've all been talking about how bad sisters are? Well, there's now 3 big GTs where sisters won. So there wasn't really a buff or a change or anything. They just won because the person playing was that good. And that feels a whole lot better than, yeah, I spent a bunch of money on aircraft, and I was able to table you turn 1 because of it. Alright, man. No, you get bikes in Necrons. You get the hover bikes, which are actually going to be really cool. Jet bikes in the next edition are going to be great. Jet bikes in next edition will be able to go through walls at a -2 to their move. You get, I think they're called like Tomb Blades. I think that's the name of them. I'm thinking Space Marine bikes are going to start turning into jet bikes at some point here because they seem to be moving in that direction. I want to see Votan bikes like suddenly just become incredible because those are hover bikes too. I think Space Marine or Chaos Space Marine bikes need to not have fly. I think they need to be mounted. I'm completely cool with them being like, yeah, we're upgrading everyone to fly, but Space Marine bikes, or Chaos Space Marine bikes, will just be kind of the same old, same old. Just make them, like, different. Make them harder to get in, but if they get in, it's over, right? Like, whatever they got in on is not going to have a good day. I'd be down for that. So, the way the meta shifted when the Catan thing happened was, yeah, everyone kind of looked at it and went, well, they're unkillable. But then it sort of readjusted because everyone was bringing Catan to tournaments, which meant a lot of the people who were being serious about trying to win some GTs started moving their weaponry over to be anti-Catan. You got more Melta guns, more like big damage output weaponry. People started folding back into the las cannon realm, which opened up the floor for armies that were more like horde-like. Because if everybody and their mom is like, we have to kill these Catan, it has to happen. Next thing you know, like, your 30 las cannons you have at once are gonna kill one of my squads of like 40 frickin' Zangor or whatever the hell I'm rocking at a horde level. So it made weird adjustments. The game just made like some crazy changes, which were interesting. I'm interested to see aircraft. They hinted at the aircraft rules because I'm a Helldrake fan. I'm one of those weirdos. Got 2 of them for my Thousand Sons. I was debating grabbing 1 for my Emperor's Children. Tau kind of have a bike option. Nay, nay. Almost all of Tau's battle suits are just bikes. They're just like kind of slow moving bikes. Dude, Tau are going to be ridiculous in the upcoming rules with their ability to just like hop over top of a building and then melt you to death. I do think certain kits are going to actually get weirdly good. Like if you're familiar with the suppressors from the Space Marines, they need to bring those back as like a general kit. Because to my understanding, those are hard to get. And in the new rules, the whole thing about being up on a second floor giving you +1 to hit, which kind of overrides the people below. Being able to put a squad of suppressors on a second floor of a building, keeping them there for one turn so that they survive, and then shooting at stuff with the heavy bonus, depending on if the heavy bonus persists in the way that it is. You could have these, like, really quality plus to hit autocannons sitting on top of a building. I'm hoping we see some more verticality out of lists. That should be really good. I feel like the most verticality we saw all throughout 10th was from Death Guard, weirdly. Death Guard would usually throw some of their, like, I think it was the Sorcerer? They would put the Sorcerer on the second floor of a building because the Sorcerer didn't have AP on its flamethrower. Oh no, I think it had AP, it just didn't have frickin' ignore cover, so you had to put it on top of a building to give it 2 AP so that it technically ignored cover. And then you start hosing people with it. Anti-fly might be good. That's why I kind of want to get my Helldrakes back in, but we need to see how much changes about the data slates. That's going to be big. Because Helldrakes are currently anti-fly in melee, and they're really good anti-fly in melee because they're anti-fly 2 with dev, so they're also +1 to hit against, I think, flying units, specifically the Chaos Space Marine variant. I don't know if the others have that as well. They're kind of like Defilers in that way. They have like their own personal existences and buffs. But the ability to put, if it's still the same way, to put a Helldrake into hover mode, sit on the other side of a building, and then just go over top of the building, 18 inches at the -2 for them, and then just flamethrower something, charge something, just rip it to shreds if it has fly on it. If they can get the points right, like if the points feel right for how unwieldy a Helldrake is to like put on the field and move around, I think that'd be really fun for my stupid lists. But supposedly they talked about aircraft. They were talking about how aircraft are gonna always leave the field at the end of the opponent's turn. Like they always just leave. And there's going to be a way for them to come back in on your turn and still do stuff. And I don't know what that's going to look like. So my thing, right, one of my lists I would run is the old Soulforge list, the Vashdor Soulforge list, where you kind of super packed yourself so that you can get more bonuses at the cost of like a worse leadership role. And I would do that with my Helldrakes. If my opponent had a flying like Primarch or something, right? Like if I was fighting someone rocking a Mortarion, I would rush my Helldrake in on the Mortarion. I would pop the bonus for the plus, I think it's like 2 attacks. He would be hitting Mortarion on 3s with the -1 to hit that they usually take. Wounding him on 2s with Dev at 2. Like, all he needs is a 2+ to roll Dev. It just... You basically take any flying Primarch to almost dead with 1 Helldrake, which I think is kind of worth the points cost if you can go in. If your opponent knows that that's what you're doing, they usually protect enough from their leader, because it's very hard to move a Helldrake around, since all it really takes is for your opponent to make sure you can't like set it down within X amount of inches of something. And the 2-inch bubble that they're adding to the game for engagement range could make aircraft the worst thing in hover to move around the field of all time. If you go into the right list with that Helldrake concept, it's great. I did it once to an Imperial Guard player as a test, right? I was testing the list out, and the Imperial Guard player I was going against had a whole battle line up front of just like tanks and people. So knowing how engagement range works for Helldrakes, being the whole like area under their wings kind of situation, turn 1, if you're getting ready to go do stuff, you just book it out to where the enemy is, and you're just there. You look around at what he has in terms of a flood of characters all over the place, and you're like, all right, I'm charging. I'm going to charge that squad, that tank, that squad, that squad, that tank with my 1 Helldrake. Because at best, all I'm going to need is like a 4-inch charge, because my wingtips are going to be over top of all of that. And then you've just shut down almost every Imperial Guard squad and a couple tanks with a vehicle that most likely will not die to any of it. So you just kind of like, eh. And then for the next turn, those tanks cannot shoot blast into the Helldrake that's on them. It can shoot out at -1, or it can fall back and have problems. Like, there's so much craziness going on there that I really enjoyed the concept of with a Helldrake. It was just so difficult to really use them. And I was one of maybe 2 people in the local area that even used Helldrakes, so no one knew how to play into them either. I had to keep like explaining to people during the game itself, where they were like, I'm charging that unit of yours. I'm like, all right, so I'll give you this, rather than being the asshole who's like, that's cool that you claimed you were charging that 1 squad, but the fact that you're also in engagement range of my Helldrake means that you can't make that charge. Because that's technically true, is at the end of your move, if I have a squad under a Helldrake and you're only charging the squad, it's a illegal charge, because if you end under the Helldrake, you're also in engagement with the Helldrake, meaning you can't make that charge. At least in current edition. Next edition, none of that'll matter. Which, not that bad, honestly. A little bit better. A little bit more AOS-ish, though. I don't know if you guys noticed that. There's a lot of rules coming in on 11th that feel like Kill Team and AOS. They're pulling from a lot of their other games. Oh yeah, Tesseract vaults are also really big. I mean, I can show you guys. I don't know if you've seen a Helldrake. This is one of the twins. Easily putting almost a whole squad underneath. So yeah, the ability to like do this and force people to have to charge your Helldrake and this at the same time is kind of cool. The fact that if you have enough squads and you can put them within range of these wing tips on the outside, like that tip there to this one over here, this is a whole area of you can't pass this because that's within engagement range. Also, it's like a net you can just throw over like 4 or 5 units depending on where you go. At T9, it's a little crappy. What was interesting, though, was for the EC codex, when it dropped, they were T10 in the Emperor's Children detachment for some reason. They turned it back down to 9, but they were T10 for like all of one data slate. They had to turn that off real quick. Because I 100% would have probably picked up another 1 or 2 Helldrakes for my Emperor's Children if that was the case. Having something that goes 20 inches that can advance, shoot, and charge. At T10. It's a wild world. Like, you don't want that, man. You don't want that in your life. Clear this back out. What you guys up to, though? Completed jump captain. Let's take a look. Ooh. Gave him the filigree. Oh, you went teal. I love teal. There needs to be more stuff in teal in 40K. I ran out of the custom heads I was putting on all of these Emperor's Children models. Kind of sad about that, but to have a couple models with their actual helmets feels like it's right. Feels like having a couple units that are just straight up, yeah, these are Emperor's Children. Probably works. All the others have the punk rock nun heads that I bought. Super custom. It's good. It's always good to finish something and feel like it worked, right? Like, oh, I made it. I did it. I did it as I wished. It's the best part about the hobby side of this. Getting to the finish line and feeling like it worked. wait to finish these. Have 11th drop and be like, Tormentors suck. Oh, they made sticky not meaningful. No. Either that or they drop like the actual fodder unit that we need for Emperor's Children. Like they drop our version of the cultists or the Zangors. Or the Jackals. And it's finally we're in that zone. That realm of being like, sweet. I can over-inundate the front line with these weird little units. Have my elites look for targets while people are trying to kill all this little fodder. Honestly, I think the benefit we get from whatever creature they give us or whatever cultist they give us is just like, roll a d3, that's how many die out of that squad. A nearby Emperor's Children squad gets this bonus. So flavorful. I don't even know if it's damage. Just give me like +1 inch to move. I'll take that for D3 death in a squad. Hell, I'll even take a until your next command phase, get like a 5-up feel no pain. That could be pretty cool. Sacrificing the wounds of your chaff to make sure the wounds of your elites don't go down as quick. Because I was surprised when I found out that the Flawless Blades didn't have Feel No Pains. Because the Flawless Blades are just mini versions of Lucius, right? So Lucius having a Feel No Pain and then none of them having Feel No Pains is just awkward. But to be able to give it to them, that'd be pretty sweet. You guys see how the psychic stuff is changing? Finally a counter to all the -1s to hit that keep popping up. I do. Once in a while. I go to tournaments for it. I got some trophies. The recent announcements and releases for Kill Team, though, I can't say they've gotten me, like, super interested. The fact that Games Workshop seems to be leaning into, like, the PvE side of Kill Team a bit more heavily with this last release info. But I have been a little worried about it, because I don't know how much more they could technically do for Kill Team, right? At some point, they're going to have to start dipping into, like, older units and models and just being like, hey, we made rules for these, buy them. Because, like, I do like whenever they sort of do, like, an update to, like, a model kit that they're kind of just like, hey, man, we're going to drop this in Kill Team first. It's cool. It annoys the hell out of a lot of people. Especially if it's a kit that they're like, man, I've been waiting for this kit. I can't believe I'm going to have to now fight people who play a whole other game mode in order to purchase the kit that I want. Thanks, Games Workshop. Not only that, but I'm going to have to buy it in a box that usually has a whole other enemy team in it that I'm probably not going to want. So hopefully I've got like 20 friends out there who are going to play the kill team stuff on the other side, and then I'll just pitch a little bit into all those box sets so I can get a bunch of the squads that I want. Which is a little weird. I don't know how they're going to keep momentum, basically, with the game system. I prefer it, though. I love the idea of the game system because I know it's not necessarily Games Workshop doing it, but they have the Wrath and Glory series that comes out, right? And the Wrath and Glory stuff is like all D&D'd out. It's like pretty cool. And I feel like if someone could tie Kill Team's playstyle into like the combat, that could be a really fun game. Just role-playing as a squad. Then your DM's like, roll initiative for combat as he sets up the board, and you have to kind of like put yourself in a deployment zone as he starts chucking down a bunch of enemy models. Because that was probably my favorite part about the NPO stuff, is sort of knowing how it's going to play a little bit and then diving into it with a more role-play RPG mindset of just like, oh, well, I'll head up here, I'll tank some wounds. That way, whenever they come out and they do what they're going to do to make me get wounded, you'll be there with your really big gun, and then you'll, back me up and get some kills and blah, 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 and it's like perfect. And that feels a little bit like TTRPG style, which is pretty cool. I won a tournament last with my Hearthkin, actually. Hearthkin are weirdly good, and they got 2 buffs in the last 2 data slates. Didn't do a video about this last data slate. I just don't have time, man. So the rotation of kill teams is necessary just because of how, like, you can't balance once you get past a certain point in team numbers. All you're doing is power creeping by basically trying to make sure the new teams are just really, really good to make people want to maybe go with them instead of, sitting on a Warp Coven kill team they've been playing for the past, 5 seasons. But it also does feel, I agree, it does feel a little bit like counter to the general feeling of Kill Team. The idea of picking your team, it's kind of like your Pokemon starter, right? You put the effort in. My Kill Teams have better paint jobs than most of my 40k armies. I did more interesting stuff with them to try to make them fun and just unique. I did all that work only to have Games Workshop turn around and be like, so that team you have, it's not going to be tournament effective anymore. The thing is, pretty much every small tournament, every small local tournament has gotten into a situation where they're just like, no, you can keep playing those teams. They buffed them, they changed them. I know that they're not good for GTs, and there's a lot of you here that probably have no interest in going to a GT, so we're just gonna, not listen to the rotations, and that's it. And that's kind of what they did. I think my local group, I want to say, didn't care about the rotations. There's actually, I think they were talking recently about doing a tournament explicitly for the teams that were out of rotation. No new teams, basically. Which feels a little like you're worried about the power creep of the new teams, which I get. I mean, Space Wolves were ridiculous. There was almost nothing about the Space Wolf team that felt like a weakness. That's why they've been nerfed 10 times. You gotta make it, bro. Get in people's discords. Start some stuff up. Leave some notes around it game stores if you got them, or like cafes or something, or just local community boards. I didn't have a local kill team community for a long time until like a couple people started really getting together for it. We started pushing it, which kind of sucked. A lot of the people in the 40K community that I'm part of, like the Big Hammer part, they were all talking about trying kill team a lot more, just because what they saw of the few games I played in the store with like a few other people. They were like, that actually looks really fun. And it's like, yeah, it is. It's kind of goddamn fun, man. Every little action you take feels like it's something important. There's way better function for outplay. It's good. You can use a lot of the Death Guard kill team in the current Death Guard kill team. I think I had to convert 2 models to get the rest of the stuff for my Death Guard kill team. Big Hammer has the full potential to be both chill and like annoying. It all really depends on who you surround yourself with, but that's just anything. Nerd culture. I have a really, really good local community. There are some oddballs in it, absolutely. There was this weird cross-section of people that we've started to correct that started joining up with the general community. Their whole thing was, you know, like, hey, you want to play a game in, like, this weekend? And, you know, if you said yeah, they'd be like, cool, can you send me your list so I can get used to your rules and we can make the game go faster? But they wouldn't send you their list, and they would never talk about sending you their list, which... to those who are unfamiliar with the concept of list tailoring, and like the worst part was they even basically came forward with the fact that they were list tailoring the moment the game sort of started. They would get to the table and they'd be like, "Oh, I was thinking of playing this, but then you told me you had all those tanks, so I brought a bunch of anti-tank." It's like, all right, man. Because I brought that up when we were at like a tournament with some of the people from the local club, and I was like, have you guys seen those people in our Discord who are just like, yo, what list are you bringing? And they're really like adamant about you telling them. We kind of shut that down in our Discord group. We were just like, look, you guys got to stop freaking doing that. You'll see what I'm bringing the day you come in, man. I mean, my answer would have been to send them a list and then play like a completely counter list to whatever they're going to build to counter that list, and then just be annoying that way. But I think them being more upfront and talkative about it was maybe the more adult way to deal with it.
Poggers.
Oh, you brought all of that anti-tank for that tank list I sent you? Good thing I switched to Horde. Yeah. Alright, orange. Naples orange is in. Now we gotta move to pale yellow. There was this one kid who kept rotating lists every time I would go in and play him. And he would always introduce it the same way. So you could almost tell what he was gonna do before. Like if you watched like what is it? Auspex Tactics, I think. No, not Auspex. No, yeah, maybe Auspex. Basically just one of like the meta channels that talks about the meta lists for tournaments and stuff and goes over their strategies and everything. If you watched like the episode from the prior month or so, or like the prior weeks or something, what would end up happening is that channel would put out like, this is a list that won a tournament in a big way, and we're gonna go over how it won. And then maybe like a month or two would go by, and then this one person would start popping up in our local Discord to be like, hey, who wants to play a game? You'd get to the store and it would just be all these unpainted models that are the exact same list that was talked about on the channel about like the meta. Like it would be Tactical Tortoise or something. It would be the list that they talk about. And he'd be like, it's something I whipped up. Something I came up with. I think it might do pretty good. It's like, all right, man. I see you. I actively, like, my system is to try to avoid lists that I think are meta, which plays very much against my desire to also go to tournaments. So, like, I'm not getting enough practice with meta lists, but when I go to the store, I don't want to bring, like, a meta list. I've done it, I think, twice now, and it has never been good feeling. I'll always get to the end of the match where my opponent... Do you know what it sounds like when a person has shut down? Right? Like, you guys know what that sounds like, where it's kind of like a silence, but like it's worse. Right? Like they're not talking, they're not interacting. They feel defeated by just like the air around them. Right? That's what it feels like every time I bring like a list that I'm like, I want to practice for a tournament with this meta list over here. And I'll usually be like, I'm bringing a list that's a little bit serious. So, you know, bring something you might want to practice with, might want to be like crazy, or try to figure out if it's good or not list. And they'll come in with something they think is strong because like the stats on it are strong, right? Like, you know that feeling when you look at like stat blocks and you're like, oh, that does D6 damage. I'm going to bring as many of those as possible. But it's not like a good unit. Like I can outmaneuver it easily. So like it's just not an effective pickup. It's just something that they were like, yeah, it's really strong. It has a 2-up invuln. Like if you guys know how to defeat Gazgul and Makari if they're on their own, right? Like if someone's playing Gazgul and Makari as like a distraction Carnifex and you run over and toss a grenade at them. Like you can just run up, toss a grenade, and you've basically undone what makes that unit good. They always do it because they haven't experienced the counterplay to it. And then I'm there with like a meta list and I just shred them. I'm like, all right. I should probably not do this as much here, but I need to. I have to. Like, there are people at this place that I go to who are top 20 in the world in their faction. So it is worth taking my good lists there, but that's not everyone that plays at this store. So you kind of get that like weave moment of, well, I want to try this good list. Hopefully whoever I'm playing against is like one of the people who knows what they're doing. And then when it's not, you just feel really bad. Pile of suits works sometimes, man. Pile of suits can be pretty good. Do you run Retaliation, Cadre? Or do you do the this isn't even my final form, I have to survive for a few turns and then I'm just going to kill you in one go kind of situation? I love meme combo lists. I love them. I love them so much. So a list I want to run, and I think it's actually going to do okay in 11th with those rules that have come out. I want to run a flesh bike list. Now, you're out there going, did he say flesh bike? There's no way he said flesh bike. Yes, I said flesh bike. Recently, I finished painting a buddy of mine's Sisters of Battle, and he paid me in cash, and he also paid me in a bunch of Zangor Enlightened. We're trying to finish out as many Zangor Enlightened as I think are going to be like okay in a list like this. And I want to run, although it might change because of how the new detachments are going to work, I want to run in Thousand Suns a demon hybrid detachment, that like half demon, half Thousand Sun detachment, and I want the Thousand Sun side to be almost all enlightened with like shamans and exalted sorcerers in the squads. And then on the demon side, I want it to be like almost all screamers. So flesh bikes. It's just all Thousand Sun like jet bikey style things. And I don't think anyone will be prepared for it. It's not good, mind you. It's a lot of mortals. It's a whole lot of mortals. And there's some cool ideas in it, right? So the screamers that are playing all the way up front, that should be playing really close to where the like enlightened melee guys are, they would be providing the enlightened melee 4-up invulns. That's pretty good in my opinion. It's pretty nice. Specifically against shooting, not against melee. Melee, they'll still have their 5-ups. But now knowing that Fly will let me go through buildings in 11th, oof, I kind of want to do it. Try to get these rivets. So right now in my collection I've got 6, 12, 13, 14. I have 15 enlightened with bows and 12 enlightened with spears. I've got all the shaman I need. I got all the enlightened, or the exalted sorcerers on disc. I got all that. I kind of want to see if I can get it to work. Specifically in 11th. And I think it'll be really fun. I just need to figure out what to back it with, and I think I'd have to back it with like MVBs or something. The 1-point rewrite, it's gotta be the mutant herd. They nerfed the mutant herd into non-existence, and then they did nothing to bring it back. So obviously they were like, all right, let's just go back to the drawing board with this idea. Mutant herd is so bad. The only reason to go mutant herd in 11th would be for 2 OC Zangor. That's it. 2 OC Zangor, which, I mean, that's good. 2 OC units that are that cheap? Hell yeah. I'll conquer everything with that. But the entire premise around Mutant Herd was to try to make the Chaos Spawn really good and to make the MVBs really good. And then they just turned off all that nonsense for both the Chaos Spawn and the MVBs. It wasn't even one or the other. It was both right away. They were just like, nope. You get nothing for Chaos Spawn. You get nothing for MVBs. Have fun with that. It's like, all right, man. Thanks. It was one of the coolest strategic ideas I ever saw out of anything that was like weird spell casting. To those who don't know, Thousand Suns have been nerfed pretty consistently this last edition. A lot of our combos and things that we would find that are like, oh, this is really cool, I love that I can do this, got taken away from us. If you could find a way to make it so that you could rock a Chaos Terminator Sorcerer Lord and do all those like fun things with it. Like in the Mutant Herd, the trick with that was to make a Chaos Sorcerer Lord in Terminator armor the leader of a Zangor squad. Then that Terminator could now uppy downy every single turn that it wasn't in combat. And it could reappear via deep strike within, I think, 6 inches of an enemy. When he appears, he could then paint that enemy with +1 to hit, which the MVBs could then utilize to hit them on 2s with like all those really big attacks. It was such a cool combo. It was so cool. It was just one of the coolest things that army could do. And it was so fun. And then they were just like, yeah, we're getting rid of all that. The MVBs aren't going to get the cool +1 to wound roll bonus that they could get. They're also not going to get the -1 to wound roll against incoming attacks that they can do. We're going to get rid of all that. We're going to get rid of the Terminator Lord being able to mark targets for anything other than his own squad. We're going to... And it's just... They shattered it, man. They shattered so much of that army. There's still a lot of valid nature to it. When I go to tournaments, I play Hexwarp Thrallband, and that with Terminators is horrifying. 6-inch Deep Strike Terminators. +1 to wound on spellcasting or psychic abilities, and I'm rocking 3 DPs with wings who get rerolls into squads. Full rerolls if it's a character that's psychic. It's if there's a character in the unit, they get rerolls 1s, which you're hitting on 2s. I went into a demon list, right? I went into like kind of the standard demon list, and I brought down Greater Daemons with like 1 Demon Prince. I would just chuck my Demon Prince at like a Lord of Change and kill it in one go. Full rerolls, hits and wounds, hitting on 2s, wounding on, I want to say it was 4s, wounding on 4s, devs on 6s, and it was like 3 damage each. So you just book it into a Greater Demon and just go, hopefully I kill you, and just mass reroll everything and just do a ton of damage. And that still exists. They haven't gotten rid of that yet. I did that to a buddy of mine. My buddy was testing out one of his like not meta Eldar lists, and he was like, nah, bring a tourney list or something. And I was like, all right, let me bring my tourney list. He killed 4 Terminators by the end of that game. 4. That was it. That was my graveyard, man. That was the entirety of my graveyard. I was basically just shredding his army. Anything I did was just mass killing his stuff. It was so mean. So my friends and I have talked about this once on your Rubric Marines costing more than the average Space Marine type situation. We've talked about this. That expensive nature to the rubrics is because of some of the detachments where they are really good. So it kind of sucks, and they sort of approached that a little differently with like the stuff they did with the Necron army, right? Where they sort of increased the cost of certain units in certain detachments. Which feels like, honestly, the only way to kind of like fix this stuff is to make it, because rubric marines, they're not good in like a lot of the detachments. They're okay. They're not good. Like, I wouldn't turn to them and point them out as being like top tier, right? Let me get a different. I need to get the gray color that I want for this. But if I have to pay the rubric tax in an army where I'm not getting the same bonuses as like phalanx, right? I'm not going to get the phalanx bonus. So why do I have to pay the same for rubrics? Because phalanx and rubrics is strong as hell. I fully agree with the points cost of rubrics there. I don't agree with it in like almost any other type of squad. Like, rubrics should not be that much in the mutant herd. They just shouldn't. There's no reason for a rubric marine to cost as much as it does in the mutant herd. They have access to like 0 benefits. So that kind of leads to the question of, in future detachments, is it a better idea for Games Workshop to be like, hey, rubric marines are, for the sake of argument, right? Not for sake of balance, but for sake of argument. Rubric marines are 100 points. If you're playing phalanx, they're 120. If you're playing Hex Warp, they're 120. Because in both of those detachments, you get access to something good. Like, rubrics can 6-inch deep strike in Hex Warp. That's pretty goddamn good. Actually, no, they can 9-inch deep strike. But if you want to take some rubrics in Mutant Herd, they're still just, regular price. That way you can make themed detachments that don't feel like you have to take them. Because right now the general gist from Games Workshop seems to be, oh, you like this type of unit? Well, you're going to want to play this detachment, and we're going to make the points value for that unit related to that detachment over like other stuff. So when it comes to me wanting to like maybe run rubrics in a different detachment, it's just not going to feel as worth it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. No, yeah, that could get really complicated. I don't know how else to deal with it other than hyper simplifying the general gist of the game for all units. That way we get into the realm of what they're kind of doing with the multiple detachment function. Because I want to run Mercurial, and I want to run Mercurial specifically for my scoring units, because the reactive move for scoring is kind of cool. And I also want to run it for the reactive move for Lucius. That way Lucius can get back into that Land Raider. That whole idea. But if the detachment drops for the Flawless Blades, and the Flawless Blades have some good things, I might have to move most of the Flawless Blades over to that detachment. Specifically the on-foot Flawless Blades. And then maybe that's like, okay, I guess. I would lose out on the reactive move potential. I would lose out on the advance reroll. I would lose out on a couple things that I'm kind of relying on in Mercurial, but I would gain the general like move increase and maybe like an enhancement or something that's pretty good. Yeah, but the reverse is that they just increase the points value of stuff, even if it's not good universally. I don't know. It's just weird. And it kind of sucks a little bit, but it really does feel like when Mutant Herd got like stripped of any of its real value, the points cost of the MVB and the points cost of the Chaos Spawn should have gone down, but it didn't. It stayed right where it was, even though they no longer had a value in like most detachments. Like not their value dropped. They still had like purpose, right? Like they're good scoring units, specifically the Chaos Spawn. They're kind of good battering ram units. So like they're still there, but like they lost access to the -1 to wound. They lost access to the +1 to wound. They lost access to a lot of stuff, but their points value didn't drop. So that feels bad. I don't know how else to put that. That just feels like a bad moment. Versus they could have just been like, if you're taking an MVB in this detachment, it's like plus 80 points or something. Because they were really good in that detachment. They were so good in that detachment. Just hit me with a points tax on it. All right, Roberi. Time is it? 5:35. We got a couple hours. I want to see if I can get a good chunk of this, if not all of it, done tonight. It'd be good. Because then I won't really have to do it tomorrow. We can focus on something else tomorrow, maybe. Not on stream. I might try to make a video. I don't know on what though. Maybe we'll do an 11th Hopes and Dreams video. I'm noticing a lot of comments pop up on some of my older videos that are like, man, I haven't seen you make a video in a year. Hopefully you're doing alright. And it's like, I've been streaming every week. Every week I've been on this channel streaming. We could have talked about this stuff live. I could interact directly with you. I just haven't had the time, man. Got stuff to paint, stuff to build, stuff to prep. Might have a new painting project coming up here. Nice, nice. going power swords with these guys. What are you going to do weird with your twin lance? You attach a leash to it and walk it around your neighborhood? Like, what? Coming in here saying you're going to do something weird. I've seen some cool stuff come out of that Twin Lance model. People have been really putting in the effort. I feel like Tau players are just like on the ball with 3D print enhancements to their models. One guy did that 3D print hex shield so he could put the like circular hex shield around the base, so it creates like a kind of sphere, but it's only like some parts of it where he would put like a bullet tracing like it was hitting part of the shield. That was really cool looking. Whatever happened to that rumor of Bandai Namco and Games Workshop teaming up to do like a Gundam thing in 40K? I feel like that has to be a Tau thing, right? Starting to rain. Hopefully the power holds. Sometimes these above ground power lines get weird. There is a Gundam minigame. I know that. I was debating. I kind of hate that I missed it. I didn't get like the right info. The stores near me weren't sending out information about them at all, even though like on a universal level people expected it to sell really well and be pretty crazy huge. I didn't get any info, so I didn't get in time to buy one of those like starter boxes you could get in preparation for the actual full game to drop, because I wanted that Tall Geese box, the one that had the Tall Geese and the 2 Leos in it. I was kind of really excited about that, because that, it looks like it plays a little like Underworlds, which I enjoy Underworlds. I know a lot of people hate it. I really enjoy Underworlds. I also enjoy games like Duelist and stuff on PC. Like, I enjoy card/board games, because the RNG takes a lot of the edge off, in my opinion. Playing a board game, there's that like extreme level of just like, oh, I gotta position well, I gotta roll well, I gotta do the right thing. But like, you go card game, and the RNG of you getting like the wrong kind of card in the worst moment, it's just like, oh well. Like, you kind of expect it. You have to be mentally prepared for nothing to go your way. Dude, nothing prepares me for when I start rolling poorly in 40K. Statistically, I should be able to kill this unit and 2 others of the same kind with what I'm about to put into it damage-wise. Here we go. Oh, I killed 1 guy out of the squad, and that's it. That's crazy that happened. Man, all those 1s, and then you scammed me on all those saves. That's wild. That's how the game's going right now. Yeah, but I still wanted that box. I wanted to paint the Tall Geese. I love the Tall Geese. Tall Geese is like the Gundam for me. Not Gundam, but the mobile suit from the series for me. Such a cool idea. They wanted to see what the upper limits of what a mobile suit could do is, so they kind of built one with everything in it. But it was too much for any pilot, so they just put it away. A regular mobile suit that could stand up to a Gundam. So cool, so badass. Such a good storyline. Then the fact that you got the Tall Geese 2 by the end of that series. I wonder if the card, like, so what, do you know enough about that card game to, like, answer some cues? Like, how like, team buildy is it? Is there a world where, if the models are out, I could build a Tall Geese 1, 2, and 3 team? Because even if it's bad, I kind of want to. Like, even if it's the worst thing of all time, I still kind of want to do it. Like, if those models actually drop, if the cards for them drop, or whatever needs to come out, or is it like, oh, you have to play the Tall Geese team with the Leos, or else you're not going to be able to play it? It's like, eh. So you can mix and match. That's cool. Are they going to be doing like decks of cards where there's points values for the suits, so that like the really good suits, if you're going to run them, you can't have like a 3-man team. It would be like one guy. Like, would they release sort of like Magic the Gathering, like the Nemesis system, where you're fighting like Devil Gundam? Or you fight like the final form of, what the hell, the Dendrobium from 8th MS. Big Zam. Get some Big Zam action going. I think I'll go Big Zam. That could be cool. If the Tall Geese 1 is like considered weak, and the Tall Geese 3 is considered strong, and then you just have all of it. You could either do like one really big thing with the Tall Geese 3, or a bunch of little things with the Tall Geese 1 and 2. But I'm guessing weak would be more along the lines of the Leos. That's why the box has the 2 Leos in it, just because they're weak units. It could be cool. Like I said, I really liked Games Workshop's frickin' Underworlds. So if this feels even remotely like that, I think it could be really cool. I'm looking for a card-based strategy game I could play. Are the cards going to be like focused for the team, or is it going to be like a trading card game where you get like the seasons and you have to buy the decks of cards and then match up like some types of cards to the team that you're rocking? There's like more universal abilities, less like suit focused abilities. It's focused? Okay. I could see that. So are there even going to be stratagem cards you can build a deck around? So there's going to be like, these are the 10 cards that matter, no, for the sake of just saying it, but this is going to be like the core that matters for your suits. But then there is still like an exterior collectible universal, because that was kind of the one thing I thought that Games Workshop fell short on with Underworlds, is that they kind of wanted Underworlds to be hyper-focused. You had very specific decks. There was a version of it where you could build decks, but like that got crazy. That was like out there. But you didn't need to buy boosters, you just had to buy the specific decks as they were coming out. Which honestly felt really bad. I knew a guy who was so into Underworlds that he actually, when he was traveling, like he would travel for work to like France or something, he would go looking for the decks of cards that he didn't get on the US release dates. Because that was the only way to get those decks of cards and the things in them. So when you actually played what was considered the competitive version of Underworlds, where you would build a deck, when you played that, you needed pretty much like all the cards to be competitive, which was a little bad in my opinion. Because if you had enough of the cards, you would usually be able to build a deck that was so stupidly meta. Like, it would just score points without you needing to do anything. What's up, Brecken? Which is why when we at the store played the closed mode, where you would play decks that were specific to certain things, and you'd had to play the whole deck, you couldn't like mix and match. Those games felt pretty cool, actually. Pretty chill. I definitely picked a very strong team, though. I loved playing the friggin' Zinch, the team with the psychic and like all the little mutants and stuff that follow him around. That team, like I kind of pissed some people off when I played it into them, because they would do something that to anyone else in the world would be like, oh, that's a smart play. But the moment you do it to me playing this team, I'm like, oh, thanks for doing that. I got some points. We painting, Brecken. Okay. I might watch a more into it video about how the Mobile Suit Gundam card game works. Because they were doing it overseas, right? Like, they were basically running it in Japan, like, fully. And then they were going to slow release it in the US once they had, like, a more focused design for the game. So it's already kind of out. Which means there's already got to be enough of a descriptor for it. My big worry with it is that it's so simple, right? Like, if they just make it way too simple. Because there are games out there that I was interested in until I started looking into them. Like Blood Bowl for a while there, I was really interested in, but most of the people within the Blood Bowl community were like, so Blood Bowl's a solved game. We already know what the best things to go are. We know the reasons behind it. We've basically solved it as a whole, so that if I'm going to go into it, I might as well watch the videos about, like, play this, do this. And these are the steps you're going to take every game, because if you don't do this, the chance of you winning is like 30%, as opposed to this, which is like 50%. It's the highest percent chance you're going to win a game. You have to do this. We have fully solved, like, playing it with friends and like doing it more narrative, that's kind of cool. And you probably get a lot more fun out of it, but Like playing in a league that's actually meant to be like a tournament league. You basically play one faction and do it one way. It's like, I don't want to play that. And if the Mobile Suit game just becomes like, you have to play the Gundam Wing team and just do this, and you'll win 80% of your games. It's like, alright, cool. I'm not going to play this game anymore. I think I'm done. I think we're moving on. Is there a board in the minigame, or do you just have the minis? There is a board, right? I'm not crazy. I could have swore I saw a board. Okay, it is a hex board. Okay, good. I wonder if they're going to change kind of the boards up for seasons. Actually, that's one of the things I did miss when they updated the rules for Underworlds. They made it so that the boards you had access to were like no longer valid, and that the seasons would just be a singular board that you would have for the whole season, and then it would go away in the next season. And it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I get the simplification, but it also kind of killed the variance. Like, I love the idea of picking your realm to play in and getting all the bonuses and benefits therein based on the deck that you built. Hopefully it does well. Hopefully it actually does well. I wouldn't mind playing in like a local scene for it. The real question is, does it get sweaty or not? Dude, I've played in Magic the Gathering tournaments locally to here where people have like traveled from out of state just to like smash some people because they paid like $1,000 to build a deck, doing the individual card purchases online and stuff. So their whole thing is to go from tournament to tournament and just collect winnings out of it to make up for how much they spent. The level of sweat. A bit different when it was a draft. Dude, drafts for Magic the Gathering, so fun. I mean, granted, you're going to kind of want to know the cards that are going to be involved in the draft, so you do need to do a little bit of research. So it can get a little sweaty, but the randomness of it, I think, kind of spreads it out enough that it's sort of fun. I have it set in pretty much all my chats to not do links. If you're in the Discord, you could probably drop it in like the random stuff. That way I can just double check it. I'm very anti-links in the chat. You never know what's in there. I'm a Twitch old head. People would drop links in the chat, and the moment anyone clicked on them, the cookies would like put some weird virus on their computer that would track like other websites they went to, then copy like the info from it that they would type in for it. Oh, it was bad. There's even those like weird JavaScript based links that you can click on, and they can like take over your Steam inventory and just start trading stuff to a different account. The world would be crazy. I'll have to take a look though. I'd say I'm like 60% interested. 60%. I'm not full invested. I don't want to go all in and then just get massively disappointed because it's just a cash grab from Bandai Namco, which is what I'm expecting it to be. But you never know. It could have legs. I know the Lorcana stuff has sort of quieted down on a more public level, but even talking to like different store owners and tournament organizers, like with Lorcana not being as vocal, it's still really big. Like the scene for it's still massive. It's just not on the forefront of people's minds when they talk about events. So that's kind of cool. One of the guys that runs events for so many different game modes talks about how usually when he's setting up like multi-tournament days where he'll do like Magic and Lorcana, the moment he posts it, the Lorcana is just sold out instantly. Magic the Gathering takes a minute. Usually like halfway through he'll talk to the venue, figure out how to expand tables, and then give all the expanded tables to the Lorcana side, and it's still immediately just like the moment he puts a new table up, just like, yeah, we can do like 20 more people, gone. People are on the ball with that game. Disney adults, they do be weird. They are rabid. I'm hearing thunderbolts and lightning outside, so very, very frightening. If suddenly I go no longer live, you'll know why. Stupid power outages that occasionally happen. Icon of excess. In the maybe like 80 games I've played as Emperor's Children where I've involved Icons of Excess, I feel like I have earned 2 command points with them. Feels good. Feels real good. They shouldn't. What's up, JP Gok? Unless it's like a keywording thing. Your link went through, right? Random posts? Good. Because it would be Tall Geese 1, 2, and 3, but maybe it's named Tall Geese, and then they do V1, V2, V3 as like a sub thing that isn't actually part of their name. Which would suck. This is such a gross soda. It's so bad, but I want to get it out of my fridge. I should not have purchased this. The first time I saw it, my brain immediately went, that's got to be disgusting. And then I saw it in like 2 other stores, and I made the worst mistake ever of my brain going, is it disgusting? Yes. Spoilers. Dirty Mountain Dew. Very disgusting. If it's at all these locations, it couldn't be bad, right? Honestly, it's one of the worst flavors I've ever tasted in soda. It's not, though. It's lemon lime cream soda. So you get hit with the lemon lime and the cream at the same time, which tastes goddamn miserable. I hate this soda. It was the only one that was sugar-free at the store. We've been sitting around here waiting for them to actually put out their Code Red sugar-free in this area, and they just haven't done it. I want to go back to the old days of chugging a soda with a red dye in it that is known for basically just stripping you of your humanity. Can we just go back, man? I just want it. Give me the sugar-free version, so I know it's carcinogenic. So the worst tasting soda I've ever had, I got out of a place called Big Lots. I don't know if you're familiar, but Big Lots is where companies send their products that didn't sell well to go to die. They basically just try to offload it to recoup whatever costs they can. And Big Lots just tries to sell it for super cheap. And that is where I bought a case of vegan root beer. You heard me correct, ladies and gentlemen. Vegan root beer. The whole reason I bought it was because I saw the label on it and went, what the hell makes it vegan? Yeah, pretty much all the Big Lots went out of business. The last time I went there, my dad wanted a product that they explicitly had for some reason. So he was just like, can you go, if you're out in that area, can you just swing by and grab something? So I went there. The moment I parked in the parking lot, there was maybe 1 or 2 other cars in the parking lot, right? Huge big box store parking lot. And it was just the cars that are close, which I imagine were the employees, and then my car. And I get out of my car, I look over my shoulder, and there's this guy, like a horror movie. He's got an old woman in a wheelchair, and he is hard sprinting towards me. Just screaming. Just, sir, 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 sir. The old woman looks like she is gone. Like, no lights on in her head, like, at all. And he is just running at me. I was like, this is how I die. This is it. So he gets close enough to me that he's like, oh, do you have money? I want to buy meds for my mom. And then off to the side, I hear the door to the Big Lots open up, and you see like the manager run outside, and he goes, I've called the cops. Get the hell out of the parking lot. Dude, it was so good. every so I worked in that shopping center for a while. The store I was working at decided to move because the person who owned it was not paying the bills and we were getting kicked out. Spending all the money on drugs. So we were moving to this new place and it was in that shopping center and there were a bunch of stores open in it. But man, the vibe of that shopping center was come here if you wish to get shot at. It was not good. Well, like most games like it, they're trying to reach mass appeal, which means it has to put on an entertaining show, I think, for people at like events. Right? If it's not entertaining at events, it's not going to be interesting. If they design it as a game where you buy it and you play it once in a while with your friends, this is a game that you buy at like a Target and it goes away after maybe a year of release. But yeah, like when we moved into that shopping center, there were stores. There were a lot of stores. And then as we were staying there, we were just watching them all go out of business. It was crazy. The fast food place on the entranceway just went out of business. You know it's bad when the fast food place on the side of like a very high traffic road just goes out of business. They renovated the building, I think they tore it down and then opened a new one. And they turned it into like a more noticeable, I guess like a more brand aware for people fast food place. And I remember seeing it open. I think it was like Hardee's or something, or like Arby's. And I remember seeing the day it was opening. They were getting ready for the grand opening and they pulled all the employees out. And it was, I'm not even kidding you, it was like 30 people were standing in the parking lot in the outfits, like in the uniforms, getting ready for like the first day. And the drive-through, it was wrapped around, like it was all over the place. It was crazy. And then after that first week, we never saw people go into that place again. And like all the employees would like come through our store and be like, "You guys hiring? They're firing everyone over there." It's like, oh, dude. Such a bad region. Oh, Checkers. I've never had a good experience with Checkers. But like in a way where I think it's fun. Like that's kind of just the running thing with Checkers and my core group of friends who have ever been around to have Checkers together. It's just like, yo, you want to feel sick in the morning? Let's go get some Checkers. And we actually do it. We're just like, yeah, let's do it. It's just so stupid. There's a convention that would happen, like an anime convention near us, and we would always get like rooms at this hotel that was like way out of the way. It was cool because it was in a city that had like a pretty decent transportation system to go to and from weird places in the city. So it was always like, yo, you want to get a room for like $400 a night during this convention, or do you want to get a room for like $80 a night for the convention? So we would always go to this just offbeat hotel that had a Checkers next to it. And we would order Checkers every night, and we would wake up feeling like such shit. It's probably the place we were getting it from, because this Checkers, the only way I could describe it to you is it was maybe like I'd say a 15-foot, no, 20-foot by 20-foot little box that had it had like a griddle grill on one side with like a small fridge. Like I had no idea how they had food in this place. It was the tiniest little kiosk of a food store, just sitting at the big highway, cut off, big road crossing, little tiny triangle island. That's where you had to go. Like, it was a little triangle island, and it was on the big side of the triangle. It was this little kiosk that you had to like cross a highway to get to, and it was just a Checkers. Genuinely no clue how that was a thing, but we went there, and it made us feel like garbage because we would always get food at 2 in the morning. That's when we would show up to the place, is 2 in the morning. The dude on the friggin' grill and the cash register would just be sitting in there. And he would see us coming and be like, what are you guys doing? You robbing me? No, we're here to get food. Oh. Dude, the AC's always broken at like any store. I worked retail in this local area for the longest time, and the ACs would always be broken by the time summer hit. The companies would be like, hey, landlords, can you fix that? And they'd go, sure. They'd fix it just before fall hits. Go through a whole season of people being like, are we going to have heat stroke? This is going to be bad. Like, to my understanding, like, if you get good Checkers, which I think we've had once, it's not bad. Like, if it's not a kiosk that's smaller than your average food truck, you're probably going to do all right. Food stall food in New York. New York had some great places when I went there. That were like weird. We went to a pizza place that was attached to an actual restaurant, and they made the pizza for the restaurant, but they also existed as their own like pizza place you could order from and pick stuff up. And it was a tiny room that you would go into, to get your stuff. There was actually, to my understanding, the way they built their storefront, there was no way to get behind the counter from the storefront at all. It was like it was just a whole like shelf between you and the door out. So I imagine like it wasn't up to fire code, but no one cared. Probably one of those situations of just like, whatever. But that was really good. We had some good food stall food there as well. What's cool is I live near a college, and there's a lot of places here locally that have that same kind of like ridiculously cheap but way too good because their entire focus is on the sauces and the seasonings kind of food. There's a halal place near me that is god tier because of that. It's so cheap, and like you can smell the food from like a mile away. It's so good. So much. For $20, I could get a meal from that place that would last me like 3 days. Just so much lamb and pita and frickin' fried onions and so much seasoning and sauce. White sauce, red sauce, to the point where like you have to be careful when you're taking it home because it might like slide out of the box. So crazy, man. So good though. And we're having this crazy resurgence locally of food trucks. Like, food trucks were kind of gone for a while there. Mostly because I think COVID, maybe? We didn't really have too many food trucks prior, though. But now there's, like, a few parking lots that exist where they tore down these buildings, but then no one bought them to build stuff. And I've noticed that they've been turning those into, like, food truck parking lot kind of situations. So there's one near me that's like a hot dog stand, a Mexican food place. It's pretty cool. Because that's the part I like about food truck culture. Is when the food trucks are like competing with each other, but they're also cool with each other. So they'll all meet at like the same place, the same parking lot kind of situation. There's like 10 trucks there for you to pick from. And it's all just really good food. Do you guys have a food from either like a hole in the wall place or like a food truck that like you know that if you tell someone else, they're going to be like, "What?" But you eat it and you're just like, "Dude, it's the greatest thing ever." You guys have one of those? I got one of those. I got one of those in mind. When I was going to college in Baltimore, I had it like every week, just about. It was so stupidly good. It was from a sandwich shop that was in the bottom of the hotel, or not the hotel, bottom of the apartment building that I was in. It was owned by an elderly Asian couple, and they made sandwiches and cheesesteaks and things. And their food was great, and it was cheap. For $10, I could get a cheeseburger the size of my head and a whole thing of fries. Which was seriously like, that's a day of food. That was like 2,000 calories in one go. But there was one thing there where it was the reason I went back to that place the first time. And I loved it so much. Shrimp cheesesteak. Which is basically a cheesesteak with shrimp on it. But the way you get it from this place is you order it and then you tell them to put everything on it. And when you tell them to put everything on it, they have kind of like that, it's almost like the Subway style of like putting toppings on things. Where they've got like all those different vats and it's just so many different toppings. And they start cooking the cheesesteak. They throw the shrimp in at some point. And then the old man like turns around. He's got like a bowl. And he just goes down the entire thing of toppings and just throws every topping they have into the bowl and then throws it on with the cheesesteak. And there's so much. It's just so overwhelming. And they throw, when I say everything, it's even like sauces. Like they basically do like a slurry of like mayo and ketchup and stuff. Ugh. I didn't think it would be good because I watched them make it. I was like, oh, it's just too much stuff. It's not going to taste good at all. Oh my God, did it taste so good. Probably the least healthiest thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. So delicious. I thought I was going to finish these guys today. I might have to off-stream finish them. I don't know. We've still got 4 left after this. This is the hardest part of this whole process, though, the yellowing. Probably the most effort you got to put in for this whole thing. Because then you kind of just flick some layer brush white onto it after the fact for some highlights. Apply little pieces of the ash gray to any of like the leather I've put on them. Shrimp cheesesteak from that place again. There's no way that it's the same quality anymore. It's been a while since I've been back there. I think they were trying to get their kids to take over because I remember one year, I've never seen anyone else work there. And then close to when I was graduating, I started noticing that I would go in there occasionally and it was like 2 younger kids. Maybe like 16, 17 years old. They'd be helping them out. Might have been their kids. I don't know. Trying to hand off the family legacy of really, really ridiculously good and cheap food. Because that place was a diner. That's the crazy part to it. Like, I haven't been to like a sandwich shop in a while. I feel like almost every food place I've ever been to tries to create like an experience of, you know, like, oh, we try to theme things, we try to make stuff look and feel cool for you to be hanging. No, like this place was just like, yeah, there's some benches and tables if you want to eat here. They put in no effort. It was kind of endearing. Definitely want these done and painted for Friday because I think that's when I'm going to play my game. So my Mercurial list. It's 2 squads Chaos Spawn. 4 squads of my Infractors, which is why I built these 2. Because, you know, I want my 4. Get 4 squads of Infiltrate on the field. Sticky some objectives. 2 Defilers, because, you know, that's the meta we're in. We're going Lucius and 3 squads of Flawless Blades. 2 of them are MSU 3-man squads. One of them is a 6-man. And I'm going a Land Raider. Hell yeah, painting. There's no reason not to go bright when you're painting up Emperor's Children. And yeah, we're going to get 1 DP with wings. We're managed to fit 1 Demon Prince with wings in this list. We're not going to be doing Fulgrim because it's Mercurial, and I don't think he necessarily fits in Mercurial. Oh, nice. When it came to the models, I did the Fulgrim, the Ascended Fulgrim from Horus Heresy as my Fulgrim for my 40k stuff. Because I like that model a lot more than I like the new Fulgrim. A whole lot more. He looks so much cooler. A lot more expensive to pick up. I mean, that's a resin model. That thing is crazy looking. I remember buying it on a whim when Emperor's Children was announced. Because I assumed Fulgrim was coming. I assumed he was coming. And I had this like weird feeling that there were going to be a lot of people pre-buying the Horus Heresy one to prepare. What, the Fulgrim one? It wasn't that bad. I mean, I guess it depends on how you want to paint it. I painted it in the same style as these guys. Because, I mean, that's my army's scheme. So, you know. I think the part of it that bothered me the most was the pinning. There's no way I was gluing this thing together without pinning like all of it. The entirety of the tail is pinned up through the wings. Oh, that thing was nuts to put together. He had pale skin back then, right? When he ascended, it was like pale, almost like lilac skin. I mean, if it's lilac, it's probably the bulk of those like weird lilac-y colors. There's like very specific ones that exist. Alright, painting. Yeah. The list I'm going to use against you, Jack, has 4 of these squads. Infiltrators and sticky objective. It is the strongest option if you're trying to hold objectives and lure people out. Because if I can position them well enough on deployment, you have to send stuff out to get them. And then the fact that it's mercurial, if you're not fast enough to get to them, I can just reactive move to safety, which I think is huge. So I kind of have to figure out which ones I want to set up as bait versus which ones I need to stay safe. But the 2 that I had at the tournament, that was kind of how I was able to table a Knights player. Was because I had them put into a position where he couldn't get to them by turn 1. And they had stickied most of the objectives. So what's fun about stickying objectives like that is you can leave them. And when you leave them and your opponent picks up things like overwhelming force, guess what they can't do anymore? It's so brutal, man. Like, he had to step out. He had to rush me down with some big things. Because if he didn't, I was just going to take off in points. I was already scoring, like, almost maximum on mains, and he couldn't get to me. So he decided to go all in one turn. He picked up, like, 1 squad of Chaos Spawn, 1 squad of Infractors, then I tabled him. And it's just the Infractors. Like, the Infractors are what made that game for me. Or the Tormentors. The Infractors that I had, I took them out of the Rhino that they were in, and then I put that Rhino forward, and then the Infractors sat on my home base the entire game. And I was like, why would I do this with Infractors if I could just have another squad of Tormentors and they could sticky my home and then leave. And I could have another Meltagun running around the front line. The other guy that was playing EC at that tournament was basically doing 4 Infractor squads, and playing into him, like, I couldn't stop him from scoring because of the Infractors. The Infractors made it a problem. So I'm hoping to start using them more and to become very effective with them, because that would be really cool to go to a tournament and have full understanding of the best places for them to go to cause the most amount of problems. I honestly think they'll be great in Mercurial too. I'm running Mercurial into you, which is all about mobility and reactive moves. I get to reroll any of my advance rolls. I have a command point function to just give myself a full 6 advance roll if I want. Like, if I really need a whole 6, I'll just pay a command point and I can just have it. You are gonna have to deal with some insanity, though. I got the 2 Defilers, and I'm gonna have a Land Raider. So that's a lot of las cannons. It's a lot of beef tank. Because the Land Raider's gonna have Lucius and a full squad of Flawless Blades in it. That way, if depending on when I use it, because I do have to pay attention to the win in this instance, if I put him into a situation where you might go after him afterwards, you're not going to be able to melee him. Like, if you're going to try to get to him for melee, it's probably with the Death Shrouds, because reactive move doesn't trigger off of setting up. So Death Shrouds coming in from Deep Strike is fine. But if you try to run to him with anything or get within 9 inches of him with anything, I can just reactive move him 6 inches. And if I have the Land Raider nearby, he can just go in the Land Raider. Which I did that in one game where I was testing this, and it was so good. It was such a good feeling to constantly be like, he's going back in his Land Raider. People kept trying to hunt him, and he just kept getting out. And I have table edge uppy downy, so you're going to have to worry about that. Because it's anything. It's anything table edge uppy downy. I could uppy downy a frickin' Defiler, dude. We'll see how it works, though. I still think Death Guard is a really bad matchup for me. In most ways. For Emperor's Children, I'm going to have to try to find ways to kill a lot of your scary units without having to go into melee with them. Because that's the thing. I can't... There's really not a way for me to get around the fact that you could be like, haha. Enjoy minus hit. All of your stats are now way lower into me for damage output. It's like, no... I can't do anything about this. which is probably why the Tormentors could be really cool. Being able to melt a gun with precision, super fun. But yeah, I've got a doctor's appointment that morning. Not like a real, it's like a consulting thing. But I figure I'll be kind of like halfway to the store, so should only take an hour. And then I'll just head up. Yep, it'll probably be good to hit it on a Friday rather than a Saturday. Sounds like a bunch of people might be looking to play Saturday, which means we'd have limited tables, limited terrain. If you want me to paint your army, what are you looking for out of like the style and theme? I know I've brought up the idea of like doing like a hyper clean Death Guard army. But like what would you actually be looking for? Because I also have to kind of consider what you have and whether or not we want to strip paint on some of it so that we can do like another round, sort of. Because I know Max painted a bunch of it, but if it doesn't look like something that's going to be at the end kind of cohesive, we might have to sadly strip most of the paint. Even on like the squad I gave you, we might have to get rid of stuff. Which means step one is probably buying a vat in Simply Green and just getting everything that's painted into the Simply Green. Except maybe the Chaos Spawn, which probably don't need to be put in Simply Green. So the idea was going to be kind of in a similar vein to Rand's paint job with his sisters, where it was going to be like a base color. Kind of looks like light phthalo green. So this like really light blue. And then we go from there to a buildup of like a gray that's just off of being full-blown white. And then we do a really tiny hit of pure white. And that becomes like the whole armor, right? It's like this nice, crisp, clean white. And then we have to figure out where to go with like the like tassel-y stuff and like any shrouds and things. We got to pick a color for that, which might end up being kind of like a turquoise. Then the big thing is the mutations, which, I mean, that's kind of the challenge, is that Death Guard have built into them all those different mutations. I say we paint them to kind of look like just regular flesh. Like, not even rotting flesh. It's just like regular flesh. It's like normal. But we do add in sort of Death Guard-y elements a little bit to it. So, like, when you have armor that's cracked and stuff, I do have technical paints that are kind of like pus and stuff and like blood that I can make look like it's coming out of the extremely crisp and clean armor and like flowing down off of them. So there's that like crazy contrast of just like still pristine but also kind of shifting. I don't know though. It comes down to like whatever you're looking for, paint wise. If we want to keep it going one way or the other, and then what we might need to do to prepare it is probably the biggest thing in my opinion. Because if you want it to all look cohesive, I know I already painted some of the Death Guard already that are in there, and I know Max did too. So like, how much of it are we gonna have to get rid of the paint on? Yours is actually going to have that issue of like needing Simply Green or Simple Green and then just putting it in a vat for like a weekend. Because I know Max painted Mortarion, but if it's your Mortarion now, like, did he lend you that Mortarion or is it your Mortarion? Like, if I repainted it, that feels so bad. Like, in my head, that actually feels really bad. For, like, the next time we show up together and you bust out the Mortarion and it's just, like, a whole different paint scheme. Max will be like, what happened? Be like, Evan painted it? Question mark? Oh, just painting the stuff that isn't painted? So we're just looking to like get stuff together so that it's just painted up and ready to go. I guess I could see that. I don't know with what I've seen of what you have if we can hit like a level of cohesion where it'll all feel like it's related on the field outside of making all the basing the same. Which, I mean, sometimes that's enough. I'm pretty sure I could imitate the paint scheme that I did for my kill team, though, across most of the regular people and the Death Shroud and stuff, so it could be relatively cohesion. I mean, repainting is always an option. It's just a matter of how much time do we want to chuck at it, because that is all down to stripping. There's no way I repaint Mortarion without having to strip the paint off of it. that would look pretty bad. But if you're just going to leave it, then maybe I can work around other stuff. Like, is the Mortarion based? Because worst case scenario, we could just, if the base doesn't match, if the basing doesn't match what's already been done for a few of them, I could always just rip the basing off of it and put different basing on. Because I think that's where it's going to be, like, the most connected, is if the basing is all the same. Might have to buy more alien tufts. The yellow-orange stuff that I was using on most of them. The 30k color scheme for Death Guard. What's that? That's the pale green, right? Death Guard was pale green. Pale green. Oh yeah, aged is fine. Aged is just going to be picking the right shade, which I have. I have the Poxwalker shade, which is like a green shade. So if you do the white armor, and then you hit it with Poxwalker shade, it'll just make the recesses look kind of shaded up like that. And if you hit it with enough Poxwalker shade, it'll sort of look like a mildew buildup, like an algae buildup. Probably play into that well. Oh, 2 more people of yellow. Let me take a look. Horus Heresy. Death Guard. What time is it? 7 o'clock. Oh, I might have to stop soon. I'm hungry. So, pre-Heresy Dusk Raiders, regular scheme. So I'm looking at, it looks kind of like bone color almost. So probably like a really light beige. I think, yeah, it's definitely like a bone beige. It's not quite white. I'd probably do a bone beige and then maybe hit it with a highlight of white. And then, yeah, green shoulder pads. Looks like knee components are green. Backpack's green. My current favorite army? Like what? Visually or playstyle, Peacock? Because I do really love I love my Emperor's Children when they're on the field. They look so good together. I'd probably go Emperor's Children. They're more straightforward. I don't have to think as much, and I don't feel as disappointed when something doesn't go my way. Like, whenever I play Thousand Suns, I always feel like 3 things won't go my way in sequence, just every time. All at the same time, not even like over the course of the game. It's just, alright, well, that one thing you needed this round to keep tempo is gone, so now you gotta do this other thing to make sure the tempo doesn't get completely lost. Guess what? That also failed. So now you have to do this whole other thing, and maybe that'll work. Oh, guess what? And like that tends to be my experience with Thousand Suns now, is just like, huh, all those things I really needed to go well this turn, none of it worked. So I guess we're done here. Versus Emperor's Children, which is like, well, what's the farthest I have to go on an advance? That unit? All right, let me roll the advance and see how far they get. Oh, they didn't get quite that far, so I guess I'll readjust my entire strategy without having to reveal myself. That is so much better, in my opinion, than screwing yourself over, because that's the difference, right? Thousand Suns have to put themselves in a position where there could be some retaliation if they fail. Emperor's Children, not so much. Emperor's Children are, well, I've done the proper stuff in the move phase to make sure I'm not out here alone and I have some coverage. Now I can continue my plan. And then that's it. I'm pretty sure it was the command phase that was the spell phase for the index. I don't think it was the shooting phase. And that kind of made it different. Like that, I feel like the command phase being spell phase was a better idea. Yeah, whereas Emperor's Children is just like, you'll get where you need to go, and then it's all down to whether or not the combat ends the way you really want it to. It's like, at least you got to the combat part. At least that happened. Versus the Thousand Suns, which is just like, well, fully disappointed. Nothing's going to work the way it needs to. So now you guys get to watch me finish my turn out doing nothing. Here we go. Super fun. Super fun for me. I've heard it said that the Thousand Suns Defiler is like super strong. I don't know though. It doesn't feel like it fills too much of a gap that the Thousand Suns didn't already have like a unit for. I guess it's just, I mean, it's in general, it's just good. Ours gets the 6-up Feel No Pain, so that's kind of cool. What's up, Francois? Well, in 11th, we at least get the whole thing where most of our spells don't care about the minuses to hit, which I think is going to be pretty cool. So at the very least, they're going to be sorting out a pretty reasonable element of our army. A lot of our stuff is going to care less and less about how the pluses and minuses work. Even though, sadly, the minus to hit thing, a lot of our spells are all flamethrowers, so it's like, didn't matter in the first place, man. It's mostly on the smites. Working on a Wraith Knight. Not bad. 5k game. Jesus, I played a 4k game. That took hours. Hours. hunkering down, though. We're almost to the other side of the rainbow here on the yellow. That'll be nice. It's probably going to be the longest part for all of this, because at this point, after this, it's just hitting a couple parts with white for highlights. We're going to have to do the turquoise on the like 5 tassels on these units. Glad I paid attention to who got the meltas in this squad. There's one guy, or there's one squad that I did wrong, where the icon bearer is a bolt gun user. Because I was hella distracted in the building sequence. We're going to try to rock power swords with these squads too. I think I'm just going to consider all the Tormentor squads to be rocking power swords. The whip's great and all, but I think there's a little bit more to the idea of having an AP2 melee weapon. I mean, they're not meant for melee. That's not their point. But the incidental on an AP2 feels a little bit easier. think I'll get to the end of the yellow, and then we'll call it so I can get something to eat. And then I'll probably off-stream a small chunk of the detail work. I don't think I'll be streaming tomorrow. Try to get some other stuff done. Hopefully I can get these guys prepared. And I should at some point, I should probably actually today, check and see if that tournament got posted yet. The one that I want to do. Because technically I'll be at the convention for work anyway. I'm pretty sure they're not posting it because they're assuming they're going to just wait for the 11th release and then get info they need to know how to run the tourneys there and then just post. Because this in-between time is really what causes this to like slow down in terms of people saying what they're going to do for what tournaments. They could update the info in BCP after it gets released though, so I don't know why they're not just chucking it in and being like, hey, we're going to do 11th, but we're going to wait to say exactly what this tournament's going to be until 11th actually drops. So I got that feeling that they're going to, 11th is going to drop, they're going to post it. It's only going to be like a month out from the actual tournament. And there's going to be like too much confusion. Hopefully I can get a spot signed up. It'll be a month after release that the tournament starts. And that's mostly for, I think, GTs, but RTTs can do it right away. This is an RTT I'm looking for. And last year, it was up by now. Like, they knew they were doing it right now. Search. Yeah, like the people are running a tournament the 23rd, so this weekend. This is a GT? No, this is a one-day RTT that's already sold out. Wait, what day is this? I didn't know that Geekdom was this weekend. Yep, still nothing. Still have not posted. They got good turnout the last couple times, although that last time was pretty rough because like 30-something people signed up and only 18 or something actually came in. Which is a wild drop-off between sign-ups and arrivals. I mean, you always have to expect some, but like that much? Holy crap. Oh, nice. Grats. Wait, which one was the Warp Hunter? Yeah. I wish to look at picture. Eldar Warp Hunter. Oh, like a big Falcon tank? With the big ass cannon. The big gun. Shoot him with the big gun. Oh, the epic version looks crazy compared to the 40k version. I wonder if Waha has the stats for it. It's probably a Legends. I gotta shave. I'm getting too scruffy. Eldari data sheets. Warp Hunter. Let's see what that looks like in the modern day. Movement 14, not bad. T9, always classic. For Eldari, 3-up save, no invuln. Okay. 12 wounds, pretty lightweight. Leadership 6, OC 3. This gun, though. Oh, it's only D3. Blast or Torrent variants. All D3, though. I thought it would be more. 24-inch range, strength 12, AP4, damage 3. It's like a plasma cannon. Dev wounds, though. Decent. In your shooting phase after this model is shot, select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks. Enemy unit must take a battle shock test. Not great in the modern. Probably cool in 11th, but again, Legends. Neat, though. So you got the whole thing, not just like the upgrade sprue, because I'm guessing it's mostly just the upgrade sprue on top of the Falcon Grav, or... Pretty cool looking, though. Oh, thanks, Strob. So it is a whole different body model for the Warp Hunter. That's not bad. It's always cool to snag models like that, especially if it's at a good price. Do you know if it's a recast or an actual original, did you say? It's a complete model, no missing, totally unpainted. I know you've said before you don't really bother with or worry about recasts as long as it's good. I wonder what the story behind it is to have just like a full blown warp hunter just like chilling. Like someone just had it. It's finally one day just like, I think I'll get rid of it. That's probably about right. Could be one of those like late night orders though. Someone's just up late, saw the model online and went, maybe. Just bought it and then completely forgot they owned it. Classic late night infomercial ordering. Alright, almost done. The light yellow for the non-metallic, well, air quotes, non-metallic gold. My quick and dirty non-metallic. That's why it feels a little weird that the torrent is like D3. It's like, I feel like you kind of want to make that like on that kind of a weapon, like super close range, but like maybe like D6 plus or 2D6 or something. Something cool. Because it just feels like an underpowered plasma cannon. It would have probably been really good with the initial Eldari rules where you could basically just be like, and I hit you with a dev because dice control. Dice manipulation trickery. It looks cool. It's like that weird Ultramarines all las cannons Land Raider the other guy in our community got from his buddy. That thing is crazy. Oops, all las cannons. It's like the Ultramar hammer or whatever the hell they call it. The yellow on these guys is all done, and I am hungry. Oh, the super heavy flyer. I remember that one. So I have to do a white highlight. I have to do the leather highlighting using the ash gray. I have to do the tassel color. And then it's just down to the basing at that point. But I am hungry. I'm really hungry. And I want to like hang out for a minute. I'll probably finish these off stream tonight. That way they can just be done. And then I don't know. I don't know what we do. I don't really have many paint projects until my buddy is ready to get me to paint his Death Guard. At which point we'll probably stream that. If I'm going to stream, it'll probably be on Twitch. Mostly for video games. Because there's some games that I might play when I'm like hanging out. That I might want to stream, maybe. Maybe I'll work on some videos. I don't know. A lot of people asking. Tormentors almost done, though. That way we can have our 4 squads of 5, which is nice. And they should be fully done, fully painted before I get to play my buddy in 2 days. Oh, not like it matters, but it's more for me. I like all my stuff to be painted when I'm playing with it. Cool beans, though. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chilling, guys. Good to see a bunch of you people pop in. Don't forget, if you're not part of the Discord community, you can always pop over there, join up. Until next time. Later, bitches!